The day I divorced Simon, he brought along his so-called dream girl. We had just finished signing the divorce certificate when he immediately walked next door to register a marriage certificate with her. Maybe he got too excited. After all, his longtime wish had finally come true. But then he had a stroke. Now he's paralyzed. Simon cheated. I don't have any solid proof yet, and I can't bring up divorce without it. A cheater has to leave with nothing. I glanced down. At the divorce papers already filled out and signed by me, even though I've made up my mind, my chest still tightens when I look at them. Quietly. I place the agreement in the bottom drawer of the nightstand. I hear movement at the door. Simon's back. He's been drinking again. The stench of alcohol fills the air. I frown, but stay where I am. I won't help him. Simon lifts his head, eyes slightly unfocused as he stares at me. I don't know how long he stands there before he finally reaches out his hand. Honey, help. Me, take a shower. I look away. Do it yourself. You're not even drunk. I don't like the smell of alcohol. Simon drops his hand, lowers his head, and silently walks past me into the bedroom. Moments later, I hear the shower running, leaning against the doorframe. My eyes drift to the photo on the table. It was taken back in college. I was the one who pursued him, chased him for 2 whole years. We didn't get together until senior year. Back then, all of Simon's friends told me to give up, because he had an ex-girlfriend, Lara. In my mind, Lara was the girl who danced beautifully. She was stunning. She got into our school with extra points for her artistic talent. And during military training, she instantly stood out. Everyone noticed. Her fan dance performance went viral on campus. For a while, her name and photos were plastered across the confession wall. Out of all her admirers, she chose Simon. Simon, who was equally exceptional. His looks, his body. He was the kind of guy girls dreamed about. They were the perfect couple, or so everyone said. But less than 6 months in, Lara broke up with him. And the very next day, she started dating a rich boy from school, Simon. Never recovered. And that's when I met Hima, about a week after their breakup. That day, a group of people invited my roommate to karaoke. She brought the rest of us from our dorm. That night I saw Simon up close for the first time. He was everything I liked, every feature, every expression. Exactly my type. When you like someone, you have to take a chance. So I added him on WeChat. He didn't refuse. That gave me hope. I chased him for 2 whole years. People kept telling me to give up, but I did. Just seeing his face every day made my heart feel lighter. Then he accepted my confession. After graduation, he said he wanted to start a business. I supported him without hesitation. I stood by him through his hardest times, watched him struggle. And just like that, I gave him 7 years of my youth now. It's not even a year into our marriage. He's already cheated. I didn't even notice. Simon had walked back until he spoke. Alice. What's wrong? I snapped out of my thoughts. Why did you go drinking again? I asked, pretending nothing was wrong, stepping closer. The sharp scent of alcohol had faded, now replaced with the faint smell of body wash. Simon reached out and gently rubbed my head. There's been a lot of socializing these past few days. I had to drink. No choice. I nodded, not pushing further. I walked into the bathroom and glanced at the laundry basket. I picked up his clothes and looked through them. His white shirt from earlier that day had a faint lipstick stain on the back of the collar. Simon has always been meticulous, would never allow such an obvious mistake, so that lipstick stain. It could only mean one thing. His mistress left it there on purpose. While Simon wasn't paying attention, I tossed the shirt back into the laundry basket. A dull, prickling pain gnawed at my chest now that Simon's career was taking off. There were times people tried to set him up with women, but he always turned them down. I thought he was different. I thought he was loyal. After showering, I stepped out to find him already asleep. He lay there quietly, moonlight streaming through the curtains, blending with the warm glow of the streetlights outside, casting a soft light across his face, making him look even more gentle. My fingers brushed against his skin, this face. It really is handsome. I laid out clothes for him for the next day, and after a moment of hesitation, slipped a tiny tracker into one of the pockets. The next morning when I woke up, Simon was already gone. I hugged my knees, curling into myself. When did Simon start acting strange? It seemed like it began the day Lara reappeared in the spotlight. I got dressed, cleaned the house, and prepared some food. As the clock neared 11:30, I grabbed my bag and left. My phone showed Simon's location. He was at the office. With the packed meal in hand, I headed straight for his company. Everyone there knew me. I wasn't just Simon's wife, I was also a founding member. Many of the board's key decisions had to go through me, so I walked straight into Simon's office. He wasn't there, so I sat on the couch and waited. But when the door opened, it wasn't just Simon who walked in, it was Simon. Even held the door open for her. The moment he saw me, Simon stiffened. Lara, however, remained composed. She smiled, graceful and confident, and extended her hand. "You must be Simon's wife. You're so beautiful. Simon's lucky to have. Married such a stunning woman." I smiled and shook her hand. "Not at all, Lara. You flatter me." She raised a brow slightly, playing coy. "Oh, you already know who I am. My husband's ex-girlfriend," I replied softly. Lara was quite the sensation back in our school days. Wouldn't know her. I made sure to emphasize the word ex. Lara's smile twitched slightly. And Simon looked away. He cleared his throat, eyes landing on the lunchbox I had placed on his desk. "Alice, why did you suddenly bring me lunch? You drank yesterday and left early this morning?" I replied calmly. "So I made some soup that's good for the stomach and packed you a meal. You need to take better care of your health." I smiled, opening the box and letting the aroma fill the room. I was confident in my cooking. I laid everything out too. Dishes and a warm soup. "You eat first. I'm heading home." As I turned to leave, Simon called after me. "Alice, aren't you staying to eat with me?" "No," I said gently. "I've made plans to go shopping with a friend." Just as I reached the door, I paused, then turned back to look at Lara. "By the way, Lara, what position do you hold here? I remember you studied dance, right? That fan dance of yours made you a star back on campus." Simon quickly cut in. "She's my assistant, a new hire." "Lara. Well, she's pretty efficient." I nodded, not asking more. It's rare to see someone get along so well with their ex. Truly, a first for me. Leaving Simon visibly uncomfortable, I opened the door and walked out. I came here to see just how far Simon would go for Lara. Clearly, he's not afraid of public rumors bold enough to keep her this close. Right under his nose, suddenly, a message popped up on my phone. "Alice, where are you? I'll come pick you up." I glanced at it. It was from my best friend, Ruby. "I'm downstairs at the office. Hurry over." Closing my phone. I leaned back on the lobby sofa and shut my eyes, pretending to nap. Since I'd said I was going shopping, I couldn't let that lie be exposed, so easily, I got into Ruby's car. And she drove us straight to the biggest mall in the city center. "You said easily can pick anything I want. No takebacks if I choose something expensive." Relax. I smiled. "I'm using Simon's card. I won't feel bad at all." Ruby clicked her tongue twice. "You two still have such a good relationship and now you're both loaded. After 7 long years of hard work, you can finally enjoy the good life? Totally worth it. He cheated on me." I looked at her. "I need your help." Ruby slammed the brakes. "Wait, what? Cheated?" I calmly nodded, showing no emotion. Ruby's mouth dropped open like she could swallow an egg. I reached over and gently pushed her chin shut. "You don't need to do much. You're a lawyer, your words carry weight. I've already had someone draft the divorce papers. Just make sure he signs them when the time comes." Ruby's playful attitude disappeared. She nodded seriously. "No problem. Leave it to me." Ruby had been my best friend since childhood, whenever I hit rock bottom. She was always the one who helped me climb back up. She wrapped her arm around my shoulder. "Let's go. Today we're maxing out that jerk's card." We walked into a clothing store together. Ruby casually picked up a dress and held it against herself. "When did you find out?" I looked at her reflection in the mirror and nodded. Looks good. You should try it on, I found out recently. The day before Lara came back. Forget it, Ruby muttered. I don't think it suits me. When I pick a dress, it's not just about liking it. It has to fit me too. So why didn't you tell me? I don't have solid proof yet. Isn't it possible he hasn't cheated? Does emotional cheating not count as cheating? Ruby didn't answer. Instead, she gave me a warm, approving look. I tossed her another dress. What are you smiling at? Go try it on, Ruby pouted, still looking a little reluctant. But she took the dress and headed to the fitting room. Moments later, she came back. Out. Excuse me, this dress has a broken zipper. An employee quickly came over, checked it, and took it away. Ruby turned to me, beaming. See, it's broken. Still want it? Nope, you're right. What matters is that it fits. We shopped for over 4 hours, swiped Simon's card endlessly, and bought loads of clothes. Eventually, we ended up at a restaurant and slowly finished our meal. Just as we were about to leave, a message popped up on my phone. It was a compressed file along with it. A short message. I've disguised it as you requested. Waiting for you to settle the remaining balance. All right, I'll be there in half an hour. I looked across at Ruby and smiled, a smile that probably looked a bit eerie. Ruby narrowed her eyes. Alice, what are you up to? Come with me to the amusement park. Something big is about to go down. Once we arrived, I walked straight to the booth selling plush toys. I randomly picked one up and paid for it right away. Ruby still didn't get it. There was no way I dragged her here just for a stuffed toy, but then she saw the vendor hold up a QR code, and without hesitation, I transferred 50,000 yuan. Ruby grabbed my hand. Are you insane? Spending 50,000 on a plush toy? I didn't answer her. Instead, I thanked the vendor. Thank you for handling this for me. You're paying for a service, miss. No need to thank me. I walked out, plush toy in hand, while Ruby followed beside me, deep in thought. Figured it out. Yet, Ruby suddenly blocked my path. Whose card did you use? Simon's. She stared at me. Aren't you afraid he'll get suspicious? He won't. Today's big expenses won't stop at this. He's not going to check each one individually. Ruby gave a helpless smile. I told you, didn't I? You're smart. Using a jerk's money to investigate a jerk, it's so satisfying. In the car on the way home, I opened the compressed file the investigator had sent me. It wasn't large, but it contained both photos and videos. Each image clearly captured Simon's face. In several of them, the woman's face was visible too. Zoomed in, Lara's face filled my screen. I turned my head toward the window. Outside, my reflection stared blankly back at me through the glass. When I got home, Simon was waiting on the sofa. He stood up when he saw the shopping bags in my hands and took them from me. Did you have fun today? I had a great time, I said with a light smile. I shopped with Ruby for hours, ate hot pot, and went to the amusement park. But there were so many people we didn't get to ride much. The lines were just too long. And honestly, we were already exhausted from shopping. Simon sat beside me, quietly listening to my every word. When I mentioned my legs were sore, he immediately began massaging them for me. He was always like this, patient, gentle, thoughtful, such a good man. If not for the cheating, I wouldn't be able to find a single flaw in him. Over the next few days, more photos arrived. Each one of Simon smiling tenderly at Lara, taking her to different places he'd never taken me. I curled up on the sofa, clutching my chest, which felt like it was being crushed. Was there even one day he didn't spend with her? Then a message popped up on my phone. It was a voice recording, accompanied by a short text. Miss Alice, I thought about it, and I believe you should hear this yourself. Confused. I pressed play. There was some muffled noise at first. Then Simon's faint voice came through. After a pause, his voice grew clearer, more distinct. Alice treats me very well, and I wouldn't be where I am today without her help. But the one I've always loved is Lara. I couldn't let Alice down. so I married her. She loves me, so I married her. That's all I could give her. I agreed to be with her because she chased me for 2 years. I thought she was. Interesting. And during those tough early days of the startup, someone had to be willing to go through it all with me. Lara left me because I had no money. But as long as I make enough, Lara will come back. Alice loves me too much. She won't ask for a divorce. She can't leave me. So as long as I don't make it too obvious, she won't blame me. I'll have Lara get rid of the baby first. It's too risky right now. If Alice finds out, I won't be able to explain it. I've given Alice everything I could these past few years. Besides Lara, I haven't touched another woman. She's living. So comfortably now, isn't that all thanks to me? She should be content. The recording ended. My phone slipped from my hand and hit the carpet with a dull thud. Didn't know what I was thinking in those moments. All I knew was I couldn't breathe. My chest was tight, my heart aching unbearably. Simon, why gave? You nearly 10 years of my youth, stood by your side for 10 whole years, and in the end, it was all one-sided. For all these years, the person you loved was always Lara, and now she's pregnant. She's carrying your child. All along, I was the extra in your story. Fine then. I won't stand in the way of your happiness anymore. I picked up my phone and called Ruby. Hello? What's up, Alice? Are you ready for the divorce negotiations? Yeah. When are you free? I'm free tomorrow and the day after. Wait, did you cry? What happened? Did that jerk Simon do something to you? I wiped the tears from my cheek. It's nothing. I just want him to sign the divorce papers and leave with nothing. The next day, I handed Simon the divorce papers. He didn't take them. Ruby's on her way here, I said calmly. I have evidence of your affair. And Lara, she's pregnant, isn't she? You've never truly loved me, so I won't force anything anymore. And you don't need to threaten Lara to abort the child. It's your kid. After all, you wouldn't be that heartless. Would you? I met his eyes, steady and clear. Let's divorce. It'll be better for you, for me, and for her. You wouldn't want me to take this to court, would you? I was just speaking casually. Didn't expect Simon to actually sign the papers so easily, so immediately. Without even a second of hesitation, he picked up the pen and signed the divorce agreement. He lowered his gaze and looked at me. I was only dragging it out because I thought you didn't want a divorce. After all, you stood by me through 7 years of hard work. I didn't want to treat you unfairly. But now that you've brought it up, I have no reason to disagree. If there's nothing else, I'll head to work. Let's schedule a time too. Get the divorce certificate. Just like that, Simon walked out the door without looking back. I could feel it. The coldness in his voice, in his steps. His attitude toward me had shifted completely. He must have grown tired of pretending. It must have been hard for him keeping up the act for so long, clutching the divorce agreement. I crouched down in a corner of the room and sobbed quietly. He really had no feelings for me, none at all. He left so easily, like I was nothing. Alice, what's wrong? Where's Simon? Did he hurt you? I shook my head and fell into Ruby's arms, finally allowing myself to really cry, loud and broken. After what felt like ages, the sobs slowed. I wiped my tears, still trembling. Why? I whispered. Why does he say he didn't want to treat me unfairly while doing exactly that? He doesn't even like me anymore. So why? Why did he agree to my confession back then? I was ready to give up in senior year, but he's the one who said yes. He gave me hope. So why does he act like even looking at me now is some kind of favor? My words came out in a mess, tangled in frustration and pain. Ruby held me and listened in silence. Seeing the state I was in, she decided to take me out of the city. Somewhere far, somewhere peaceful. We couldn't get the divorce certificate. For another month anyway, Ruby took time off and flew with me to different places. I saw mountains, rivers, sunsets. Watched strangers laugh, hold hands, smile at one another. Slowly, the knots in my heart began to loosen. The heaviness inside me started to fade. And so, standing in front of the Civil Affairs Bureau, watching Simon and Lara holding hands, I felt nothing. No pain.
Ow.
No bitterness. just emptiness. Lara gently touched her barely noticeable belly as she walked up beside me. She leaned close, lowering her voice, sharp and mocking. After standing by him for so long, in the end, it was all for nothing. 7 or 8 years of your youth wasted. I almost feel sorry for you. I took a step back, putting space between us. It's that baby you're carrying. It's my husband's, right? Simon and I haven't even gotten our divorce certificate yet. And you're already in such a hurry to show off. I didn't lower my voice. The people around us heard every word. They began glancing at Simon and Lara with disgust. Lara's face went pale and she shrank behind Simon. Simon forced a stiff smile. Let's just get the divorce certificate quickly. The moment Simon and I were officially divorced, he immediately pulled Lara toward the line to register their marriage. The onlookers who hadn't left now stared at them with even more contempt. People passing by avoided them like they were contagious. As for me, I felt nothing. Just calm. I looked down at my divorce certificate, flipped it over, then back again. I couldn't stop smiling. I was finally free. Ruby had promised to take me out for a big celebratory meal, so I sat down on a bench outside to wait for her. Then, right in front of me, I saw it happen. Simon and Lara were walking out of the office, their marriage certificate in hand. Just as they reached the door, Simon suddenly collapsed. His body hit the ground with a loud thud. People nearby screamed and backed away in panic. I stood still. I watched as Lara began crying uncontrollably, shouting his name, and still, I pulled out my phone, called an ambulance, calmly gave them the location, then hung up. Without another glance, I turned and walked away. Ruby arrived just as the ambulance pulled up. Afraid that trouble might follow me, I quickly slipped into Ruby's car through the crowd. As always, Ruby was curious. Her eyes flicked toward the chaos people rushing around, an ambulance pulling up, and she looked like she was about to crane her neck to get a better look. I reached over and gently pushed her head back down. Stop being nosy. Let's get out of here. Wait, what happened? Who called the ambulance? Tell me what's going on. Just drive first. I'll explain on the way. Ruby cast a few more glances toward the Civil Affairs Bureau before finally starting the engine. As I looked at the scene disappearing in the rearview mirror, I began telling her what had just happened. When she heard that Simon had collapsed right after getting the marriage certificate with Lara, she pulled into a temporary parking spot and laughed for a solid 3 minutes before getting back on the road. I stared at her, completely speechless, not wanting to say another word. Since Simon had already signed the divorce agreement, he agreed to leave with nothing. Now, the house and car were mine. My shares in the company remained untouched, and I hadn't even reclaimed the shares I'd once given him. But still, he transferred 5% of his own shares to me, making me the largest shareholder. Why didn't you take full control of the company? Ruby had asked. I don't manage it as well as he does, I replied. And I can't just cut off his livelihood completely. Besides, Lara's pregnant. Once the baby comes, their expenses will only increase. I meant it. Even if Simon had wronged me, I didn't want to completely ruin him. Without money, how? Would he even survive? I listed the house online, bought a small apartment, and hired movers to relocate everything in one go. Since Simon had been in the hospital during that time, I was left to manage the company's affairs myself, staring at the pile of documents on my desk. I felt a headache coming on. Simon used to handle all of this. I was only involved in major decisions. It had been a long time since I'd had to go through so many files alone. By the time the day ended, I was beyond relieved to finally head home. But the moment I stepped outside the company doors, I saw Lara standing at the entrance waiting for me. After I asked Simon for a divorce, she had quit her job. I figured Simon must have promised her everything, all his money, so she could live the life she wanted. But now, seeing her in a plain t-shirt and casual pants, I was surprised. Lara had always loved dressing up. Simon still had money in his accounts. So why did she look so ordinary now? As soon as she saw me, she rushed over. Her face looked exhausted, like she hadn't slept in days. Alice, we need to talk. I nodded. and took her to the convenience store downstairs. We sat down inside, and she got straight to the point. "You knew Simon had a stroke from the beginning, didn't you?" I frowned and shook my head. Simon had never said a word to me. But Lara didn't believe me. "Of course you knew. That's why you wanted a divorce, right? Now he's paralyzed. And I'm the one stuck taking care of him, why should I?" "He promised to take care of me," said, "no matter how much I spent. He'd always support me. And now look at us. As soon as they found out about the stroke, he became paralyzed. Not only do I have to care for him, I'm pregnant. And the money's gone. You need to give me an explanation. You have to pay. Simon's medical expenses. Don't even think about avoiding this. If you don't pay up, I'll show up at your company every day to cause trouble. I'll make sure you can't get any work done, no contracts, no peace." I just sat there listening quietly. After Lara finished, I smiled at her gracefully. "Lara, you can't get out of the marriage now, can you?" She froze. Her gaze quickly turned venomous as she glared at me. "Anyone who knows Simon knows that you're the dream girl he could never get. Now that he's finally married to you, he's not going to let go so easily. Perhaps you don't really understand Simon, but I've lived with him for over 7 years. I know his temperament. The so-called letting go for love, allowing the one he loves to be happy, that might happen once, but it won't happen a second time, especially not with the Simon we have now. He's seen enough betrayal in the business world to believe that only when everything is firmly in his control can he feel at ease. And that includes you, Lara." I smiled faintly, picked up my bag, and turned to leave, but Lara rushed forward and blocked my way. Her voice was trembling with desperation. "Please, I'm begging you. I have no money. He's still in the hospital, and I really don't have anything left." I took a step back. "I thought you already ran off with the money." Lara froze. Tears welled up in her eyes almost instantly. "You think I didn't want to? If it weren't for Simon's assistant having people watch me, I would have run. A long time ago." Her words made me glance around the convenience store. I didn't see anyone familiar inside, but when I turned toward the window, I spotted someone standing just outside in a black shirt. I recognized him immediately, Simon's assistant. Even though he'd recently been fired, I knew his face well. At the time, I had found it strange. The assistant was capable and fiercely loyal. Why would Simon suddenly let him go? Made sense. He hadn't truly been fired. Simon had already seen this coming. Had he known he was sick? I sat back down, lost in thought, pieces of the past clicking into place. Simon had always worked himself to the bone, sometimes through the night without sleep. Everyone used to say he was working himself to death. I thought so too. But no matter how I tried to convince him to slow down, he never listened. So eventually, I stopped trying. He wanted to make money, needed too. Without his drive, the company wouldn't have grown the way it did. Now, thinking back, there had been signs. He once mentioned hearing ringing in his ears and suffering from headaches. Worst episode happened when he collapsed in the bathroom while washing up. I heard the crash and rushed to help. He gripped his head for a long time before he was able to speak. I gave him a glass of water and asked if he wanted to go to the hospital. But he shook his head. My leg just went numb. Got a little dizzy. Probably didn't sleep enough. Was always stubborn like that. I figured I'd arrange a checkup soon, but before I could even make the appointment, I discovered he might be having an affair. Everything else got pushed aside. But now, I realize, he must have gone to the hospital himself. For all his recklessness, Simon wasn't careless about his body. If something had felt off, he would have noticed. I turned my head and looked back at Lara. Didn't expect Simon to be quite the planner. "What do you mean?" Lara stared at me, trying to read my face. "Don't bother looking," I said calmly. I really didn't know, but Simon probably did. "I have a feeling this is his revenge on you." I lifted my eyes and looked at her. Certain of what I said, her face went pale, as if some awful realization had just dawned on her. No way. He loves me. Said it himself. He's always loved me. There's no way he's getting revenge on me. I gave a non-committal. Not bothering to argue. But my gaze lingered on Simon's assistant still standing outside. "Have you forgotten?" I said softly. "When you dumped Simon so cleanly, so coldly, he drank himself sick. He ended up vomiting blood and had to be rushed to the hospital. Where were you then?" "Oh, right. Watching fireworks with your rich new boyfriend?" The fireworks were beautiful that night, and Simon watched the entire show alone from his hospital room. Lara collapsed back into her seat, her face ashen. I looked at her and gave a small, calm smile. "Don't worry," I said gently. "I'm just guessing. No need to take it to heart. Be afraid. Simon still holds shares in the company, and I won't fire him. He'll just be demoted. I'll make sure his salary gets paid so you won't be lacking anything." After saying that, I picked up my bag and walked out. Just before stepping outside, I turned to glance back into the room. Lara was still slumped in the chair, her expression vacant, her eyes hollow. Aha! I shifted my gaze and met the eyes of Simon's assistant standing at the door. I gave him a polite nod and left. Back in the car, I didn't ask the driver to start the engine right away. Instead, I pulled out a small notebook from my bag. On the cover, written clearly, was one word: Simon. The things I'd just told Lara weren't made up. I hadn't said them to scare her. Every word had come straight from Simon's journal. Humming softly to myself, I flipped through a few pages before slipping it back into my bag. I'd found it while packing up. Simon had hidden it well tucked beneath a hidden compartment under the bed frame. If I hadn't dismantled everything during the move, I never would have found it. Inside that journal were Simon's darkest thoughts, and reading them, I finally understood he wasn't the man he pretended to be. Not at all. We'd been together since our senior year of college. We've together day in, day out for 7 years after that. Then came the marriage. Nearly 9 years in total, and I never truly saw his real self. I never realized just how deeply he hid it, how calculating he truly was. Some of the things he wrote were true. He accepted my confession and stayed with me, not out of love, but because he didn't want to be alone while building his business. I had chased him relentlessly for 2 years, never giving up no matter how many times he turned me down. At that time, I was simply the most convenient choice. But then there were things in that journal bold. Lies. He didn't love Lara. He was just bitter she left him for someone else. Maybe she was an obsession, but she was never his so-called dream girl. She was just someone who bruised his pride. Simon had gone to the hospital. They hadn't given a clear diagnosis, but based on his symptoms and tests, the doctor suspected a stroke, and a stroke could mean paralysis. So yes, Simon knew. He'd known all along. Sometimes I wonder which version of him was the real one. He wasn't completely heartless toward me. He wrote about planning to divorce me, but he didn't expect me to make the first move. He said I'd been good to him, and for that reason, he wouldn't hold on. The one he wanted to hold on to was Lara. That's why I was so sure Lara couldn't escape that marriage. Divorce takes both parties to agree. Now that Simon finally had her, he wouldn't let her go. Why else would he rush to get the marriage certificate? Why else would he send his most trusted assistant to keep watch over her? Even the way he signed the settlement agreement without hesitation, it wasn't generosity, it was strategy. He wanted to trap Lara. Simon had always been precise, meticulous. "Drive," I murmured, leaning against the window. "Take me to the hospital, the one where Mr. Simon is," the driver asked. "Yes," I said softly. "Some things have to be returned to their rightful owner." I arrived at the hospital room. Simon lay in bed, motionless. I didn't hesitate. I opened the door and walked in, placing the journal gently on the bedside table. Simon's eyes followed the movement, then landed on the journal. "Ah!" He tried to speak, but only garbled sounds came out. I feigned confusion, glancing at him with concern. "What's wrong? Are you uncomfortable? Should I call the doctor?" Simon could only make incoherent noises. I stood, closed the door behind me, and returned to sit beside him. "Simon," I said quietly, "you really are a selfish, self-centered man, ruining 2 women's lives like this." I looked at the journal beside him. "I'm leaving this. Here, whatever Lara sees, whatever happens after. That's your burden to carry. These are the seeds you planted, and now you'll have to live with what they grow into. In your mind, maybe you think you were good to me. But don't forget, if it weren't for your selfishness, for saying yes to my confession all those years ago, I wouldn't have wasted nearly a decade on you. And let's not forget, You were unfaithful in our marriage. It's the only right thing you've ever done for me, was signing the divorce papers. But divorcing me just to drag another woman down with you? I shook my head. That makes you all the more disgusting in my eyes. My phone buzzed. It was a message from the driver downstairs. Boss, Laura's back. I slipped the phone into my pocket and stood up, walking out of the room without sparing Simon a second glance. But I didn't leave right away. Instead, I found a quiet spot to hide and observe. From there, I saw Laura step into Simon's hospital room. His assistant stood outside, alert. I approached. The moment he noticed me, he looked like he was about to speak, but I raised a hand, signaling for silence. He nodded, understanding. The assistant had always been loyal to Simon, but between Laura and me, his trust leaned more toward me. I may not have treated Simon tenderly, but I never intended to harm him. The same couldn't be said for Laura, at least, not from the assistant's limited understanding of her. Together, we stood silently at the door. Inside, Laura had already found the journal I left behind. Just as I predicted, she read it and unraveled. Her scream echoed through the hallway, her voice full of pain and disbelief. She bombarded Simon with questions, her anger boiling over. But Simon didn't respond. He simply closed his eyes. Not even bothering to look at her, Laura snapped. She began hitting him, shouting insults, wild, broken, desperate. I turned to the assistant beside me. Aren't you going to step in? He sighed. Am I even going to get paid now? I paused, realizing Simon had fired him before the incident. Probably not, I said quietly. He let out a bitter chuckle. Before it all blew up, Simon only paid me 1 month's salary in advance. Come work for me, I offered. Same salary as before, and if you do well, I'll give you a raise. He raised an eyebrow. You're not worried I'll leak company secrets? I glanced at the scene inside the chaos between Laura and Simon. Double quotes. No, I don't know what Simon did to earn your loyalty. But if you were that devoted to him, you wouldn't destroy the company now, especially when he needs money more than ever. Without the company, he won't even be able to afford his treatment. The assistant didn't reply immediately, and silently he pulled out his phone, scanned the QR code on his screen, and added him as a contact. Thank you, he said, softly, and stepped into the hospital room. I moved back, hiding behind the wall. No one inside noticed me. After that day, the assistant kept updating me on Simon and Laura from time to time, listened, but never really cared. Eventually, the updates stopped. Silence stretched for months. Then almost a year later, I heard about them again. Laura had given birth to their child. But not long after, she was taken into custody, the charge: child and spousal abuse. I closed my laptop and glanced across the office. The assistant, now working for me, sat at his desk, focused on paperwork, quiet, loyal, dependable. I looked away. He really was loyal. Rubbing my temples, I turned my attention back to my own work. Dare. Story, whatever it had been, was no longer mine to carry. Their fate, their mess, their choices. None of it had anything to do with me anymore. I was moving forward toward a future that no longer included them.